Hey boys, it's HarmNone. Today we're going to be going over the top 5 most realistic looking cars from the Tuners DLC. So this is cars that look the most like their real life counterparts from the Tuners DLC. We got 5 cars here. Let's hop right into number 5. So guys, at number 5, we have the Pfister Comet S2. Now this is based off of a Porsche 911 GT2 or GT3 RS. Obviously, I've got mine completely kitted out with all the racing gear that you can put on it, and it looks just like the real life counterpart. You can dress this thing up with all the racing gear to make it into a GT3 or a GT2 model. You can also tone it down a little bit to make it into more of a 911 Turbo S, or you can dress it down even further to make it just a bare bones sort of 911, which is really cool. This car has an absolute ton of customization. You can make it look pretty much however you want. You can go for any, trim level of Porsche, which I think is really cool. And obviously it looks just like the real life counterpart. There's a few things here and there that, might not be super perfect when it comes to the real car versus the GTA one. But for the most part, I think that it looks almost identical. And I think that Rockstar did a really good job pushing right up to that copyright infringement line, but not quite infringing. Anyway guys, that's it for number 5. Let's move into number 4. Alright guys, next up at number 4 we have the Obey Tailgater S, which is based off of an Audi S3 or an RS3, or an A3 really, but it's more of an RS3. Again, it's the same as the Comet S2. You can dress it up or you can dress it down. You can make this thing into like a base level A3, an S3, or an RS3 if you really want to get crazy with it. This car has a lot of customization, and like I said with the S2, you can make it look however you want really. I've gone for an RS3 look with mine personally. I put, most of the racing modifications on it that you can do, with the exception of like a big wing on the back. I went for sort of like a clean, like tuner street build sort of thing. Overall, I think it's a really good looking car. Obviously, this is the Tailgater S, which came out with the Tuners DLC. It is an update to Michael's car, or the regular Tailgater in Grand Theft Auto Online. I'm really glad that we actually got an updated version of it. And I think that Rockstar knocked it out of the park with this thing. Rockstar seems to be getting better and better with, almost committing copyright infringement, but just not quite doing it. Overall, great looking car. Can't go wrong with this thing. It's not the best performer, but it is pretty nice, and it is a 4-door car, so you can fit, 3 of your friends in it while you're driving. So honestly, pretty good car. I'd recommend picking this thing up. Let's move into number 3. Alright guys, next up at number 3 we have the Ubermacht Cypher. And wait, I can hear you saying, HarmNone, that car looks just like the BMW M2. And trust me, I hear you. It does look just like the BMW M2, but there are a couple of things about this car that make it come this high in the list. Now, I personally believe wholeheartedly that this thing is based off of a BMW M2, and you can't convince me otherwise, but there are a few people out there who seem to think that this thing could be based off of an M3, and I've even seen somebody in my comment section say that this is based off of a BMW M5. Now, just a brief lesson while my brain hemorrhages here. The M5 does not come in a 2-door. It is only a 4-door. So if somehow that guy's watching, probably not an M5. But anyways, it is a very realistic looking car. I'm really happy that we have a new BMW in the game that looks this good. We have the Rebla GTS, which is like a carbon copy of the BMW X5, which I really like. I also really like this because obviously it looks just like an M2. However, the cars that are ahead of this thing are unmistakable for what they are based off of in real life. So that's why this thing actually had to go at number 3, is because the next 2 cars, you couldn't confuse them for being anything other than the car that they're based off of. So anyways, the Cypher is a really good car. It's not the fastest, it's probably not going to win you any races, but it is a very realistic looking vehicle in this game. And I absolutely love this thing. I don't think you can go wrong with this thing. If you're a BMW fan, you should definitely own one of these. It does handle really nicely. It makes a good sound when you drive it. And honestly, it's pretty fast. Like it's not slow, but it's not going to win you any races either. Anyway guys, I think that's pretty much it for number 3. Let's move right into number 2. Alright guys, next up at number 2, we have the ZR350 or the RX-7. Now, I think it's undeniable that this thing is based off of an RX-7, like I mentioned when I was talking about number 3. The ZR350 is pretty much a carbon copy of the RX-7 in real life. I don't think you can even deny that. There are a couple things about it, you know, maybe the proportions aren't quite right, but it's very, very obvious what Rockstar was basing this thing on when they started to make it. Now, the ZR350 is a fantastic looking car in my opinion. It's one that I think that every player in GTA Online should own. It has pop-up headlights, which is extremely, extremely cool. And the RX-7 is just an iconic car, so I don't think you can go wrong owning this thing. Now, it's not going to win you any races, but it does look exactly like the real-life RX-7, which is probably the only thing that really matters. It's very cool. It's got a lot of customization that you can actually do to it. You can make this thing look completely unique. I haven't seen many that are like mine or that are like my other one. I actually own 2 of these. That's how much I like this car. Overall, it's just a very good looking car, and it drifts really, really nicely as well. If you're into drifting, it's a good car for you probably. Overall, RX-7, ZR350, pretty much the same thing in my eyes. I think that's pretty much it for number 2. Let's move right into number 1. Alright guys, last but not least, at number 1, we have the Vapid Dominator ASP. Now, this thing is completely deserving of being at number 1, I think, because it doesn't look like any other car on Earth except for early 2000s Mustangs. Now, when this thing has its default options on it, it looks like a 2000 Mustang Cobra, but you can obviously change it up and make it look more like the Mustang GT, or even some of the later Cobras like the 03 Terminator Cobra. Apart from its great, you know, realistic looks, it's also a very, very fast car. What the hell? Oh my god. Okay. As I was saying, apart from its great looks, it is also a great performing vehicle. This thing is actually one of the fastest vehicles in the game when you have low grip tires on it and when it's stanced. So that is definitely something to be said. It's also the fastest car in the muscle cars category when it comes to racing, which is a feat in itself and is very, very impressive. If there's one car that I recommend that you buy on this list overall, it would be the Vapid Dominator ASP, because it can actually help you win muscle car races. It looks amazing. It's a great performing vehicle. There's nothing really wrong with it. It handles great. Top speed is really good. Acceleration is really good. You can't really go wrong with this thing. Anyway guys, I think that's pretty much it for the video. Let me know what you thought of the list in the comments down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video or if you learned something. Subscribe if you guys are new, and I will see you guys in the next video. Until then, take care. Peace.